Yes, it's been entirely too long. Welcome back, one and all, to the Starshine Legacy, Episode 2, The Secret of Pine Hill Manor. This one picks up a week after the first game ended, and we'll get to see how everyone's getting along, and as well as how Lisa's adjusted. Let's watch the intro first. So to be clear, the seer and scout that the intro is referring to, that's Linda, the player character of the second game. The seer and scout are not separate characters, they are the same person. And Linda is probably the best written of all of the Starshine Legacy characters, as well as starring in the best written game overall. And a part of me thinks that's just due to the nature of how pandering to demographics works, as sad as that is to say. But either way, this is the nice one. This is the nicest of the Starshine Legacy games. So one of the many things this intro level is tasked with presenting is, who is Linda? Well, Linda's an overachiever, though not by choice. She's incredibly competent, and a lot of important people cling to that competence because they want to wring things out of her. People like Ms. Graham. People like Ms. Graham see the competence in Linda and expect so much of her because it reflects well on them when Linda does well. Linda does well, Ms. Graham looks like a competent teacher, and she gets to show off to other faculty members and her colleagues. And you know, sure, Linda's smart and skilled, but she'd rather just be a regular achiever than this overachiever everyone else is trying to make her out to be. Right now, she's tasked with finishing the school newspaper practically all by herself, and she needs some interviews for the back page. She'll get them from her friends, who are the other protagonists of Starshine Legacy. We met them in the first game, but this is a reminder of who they are and what they're about that goes a bit more in-depth than anything we've heard the first time around. We get some good world building, some nice character lore, and in general, it feels like they figured out more about how the characters will work for this game. Like, they had rough ideas for the characters in the first one, but now there's more to them, more meat on the bone. You also get some genuinely humorous dialogue like, "We have a history of being the most important people in Jorvik." I love that line. When we meet Josh again, Josh being the boy who has a crush on Lisa and the boy that Anne has a crush on, when we talk to him, you'll see that he has some choice words about Anne, practically comedy roast-worthy words about Anne that shows that the writers really understood their characters. But yeah, no, from a writing perspective, this first level, I feel like a writing professor would be really proud of this stuff, right? It teaches you who Linda is, it shows you the struggles she goes through in life, and it uses those struggles as an excuse to give you more exposition about the characters around Linda and the people Linda cares about, why she cares about them, why they care about her, the things they care about, how long it's been since the previous game, all kinds of important information being delivered in a completely natural, in-universe fashion, while linking it to Linda's own struggles. It also benefits from the interactivity, which is not something you can say for a lot of the games in the Starshine Legacy series. A lot of the dialogue-heavy segments in Starshine Legacy don't feel like they benefit from you being able to control the player character, but this first level does, for reasons that may not be super apparent yet, but hopefully will later, and if they aren't, I'll explain them in detail anyway, because that's what I'm here for. I'm commentating over the video. So in general, the writing has a higher standard of quality in this second game, and although it's not perfect, there are some serious problems with the way the characters behave regarding the threats we'll face later. It is definitely the case that that there's a greater amount of effort being put into making things follow. Like when you think about them logically, there's a greater chance that they'll check out. That was a whole lot of words to say that I think this game does a better job at making more sense. I'm tired, my sleep schedule's been a little all over the place, so I hope you can forgive me for saying things like, I think it follows better logically when you think about it and it checks out better, instead of just saying that it makes more sense. Sometimes people can't sleep at night, you know? And then they wake up after only an hour and a half of sleep, and then it's time to record Starshine Legacy. Anyway, Lisa here is talking about how her father works for Dark Core, that corporation run by Mr. Sands. You might have remembered, or might not have remembered, in the last game we learned that Mr. Sands, apparently well over 100 years old, and has been working the Dark Core Corporation for all of that time, working the drilling platforms, trying to get something in the sea, something that seems eldritch. How can Mr. Sands be over 100 years old? Just what is buried in the sea that's of such importance to his Dark Core Corporation? And what is this about a little Starshine from 100 years ago, and 4 girls around the horse, Little Starshine? Perhaps we will find out more in this tale. We do find out a little bit more, just a little bit. Spoilers. So it's time to print the school newspaper, school magazine, whatever you'd like to call it, and of course that depends on this printer functioning properly. I've never seen a printer like this, but then again, I am not as old as this school. Thankfully, in spite of Linda's understandable stressing out, anyone would be in this circumstance, pretty sure it's just out of ink. And thankfully, the janitor is nearby. He's always patrolling the school grounds, and he basically does everything. He's the registrar, he's the security guard at night, he's the janitor, he'll fix up your printers, he keeps all the school keys. He basically is the school staff all by himself. Kind of a supernatural being in that way. I do like this conversation Linda has with the janitor, where the janitor calls Mrs. Graham a bit of a dragon and sympathizes with Linda's problems. It just feels natural, feels like something the janitor would say, feels like something someone in his profession who does the things he does and knows the things he knows would say. The world's more believable for having that dialogue in it, and it's good, brief character building. While we're jogging back to fix the printer, seems like a good time to mention we are going to be getting all of the fallen stars, just like in the first game. We're going to be getting all 22. This is actually the game I'm the most familiar with and played the most because it's my favorite. Ink cartridge is fixed, or rather the ink cartridge is where it's supposed to be. The ink cartridge wasn't broken. I assume if your ink cartridge is broken, you simply get another one. Anyway, it is the case that the stars, the fallen stars we'll be collecting, do nothing in this game, just as they did nothing in the first game. But, you know, getting them proves that I know where they are, and thus proves that I know things about the game, and so I can feel good about knowing things about a game I like and am presenting to you. That's why we're getting them. I am very happy that the Jorvik Gazette looks presentable. Like, I've seen a lot of higher budget games where you print out things on paper and they do the rather bare minimum amount of effort. Like, I was expecting the page to still be blank and her just tell us it had things on it. Our attempts to jump past Mrs. Graham to avoid further work have not succeeded. So I really like this bit in particular. There's this supposedly genius professor, Professor Hyman. Unfortunate name, by the way. I may not be pronouncing it properly. But this supposedly genius professor has a new theory, a mathematical theory he was showing to the students here. But he wrote it all down on a chalkboard and only on a chalkboard. He didn't take notes anywhere else. So what happened? Of course, the notes got erased off the chalkboard. What a dummy. I just love this scenario. I love that Linda, who is hyper competent, has to cover for more important people who are supposed to be hyper competent, but just aren't. Like, this genius mathematical professor wrote down all of his notes on a chalkboard, only on a chalkboard, left them there, and now Linda has to rush and try and grab notes from random students to scramble the professor's theory together so she can give the notes to him, because apparently he forgot them all already. Nathan, my roommate, really enjoyed reading the nonsense about the professor's theory that the students babble about, by the way. He thought it was pretty funny. We're going to get one of the notes from this, hi Mrs. Graham, this guy who's been walking into the banister for the entire time we've been at the school. He's just been walking into that banister. You've seen him do it since we arrived. But he's got his wits about him. He seems like fully cognizant. I had to look up whether I was using cognizant properly. Most people say you're cognizant of something, so I wasn't sure. I did not arrive at a definitive conclusion, so cognizant is staying in the video, but now you know that I wasn't sure whether the usage was appropriate. But yeah, this is what I meant by the game benefiting from the interactivity in this circumstance, because it feels like you're getting pinballed around as the player. You're really suffering the garbage Linda is going through. You started the day with a task, and you just keep getting more and more tasks hurled at you, and you just want it to be over, but you gotta run here and then there, and you just want it to stop. And Linda's like, yeah, can this just stop? I want to get to the stables before it's too late. And Mrs. Graham's like, now that you mention it, here's another unreasonable thing. I told my colleagues how great you are, and lied about your progress on this report you haven't even started. So could you get started on it? The emotional manipulation here that Mrs. Graham is using is insufferable and suffocating and really well written. Like, Linda's trying to be like, no, I've done more than is reasonable. And Mrs. Graham says, oh, but you wouldn't want to make a fool of me or cost me my sleep tonight. Like, she's making it Linda's problem. Trying to make the victim out to be the abuser, it's awful, but it's effective. It got Mrs. Graham what she wanted. Anyway, we're looking at these objects in the trophy case that have some strange connections to the mystery regarding Dark Core and the Starshine legacy. If I can get... yeah, there we go. You think when he had that photograph taken that he demanded that the alchemic circle be visible in the background? I would probably demand that the alchemic circle be visible. And over to our left, the final thing to examine, we have another photo of Mr. Sands. He's somehow connected to Pine Hill Mansion, to the researcher Geo Burtis, and to the headmaster of this school. So, Mystery of Pine Hill Mansion, appropriate subtitle. You can bet we're going to be going to Pine Hill Mansion and figuring out what's going on, or rather, what went on, because as Linda said, the place was abandoned quite some time ago. And of course now we are sprinting full speed toward the door. We want out of here now. We went out of here yesterday. And now, yes, at last, it is time for the horses. The time for horses has come. Linda's excitement is understandable because that's why we are here also, is for the horses, and we suffered through waiting with her. It is horse time, of course, after we get the fallen stars. We must get the fallen stars first. The fallen stars are in different locations than they were in the first game, though in the future games, the fallen stars won't change position anymore, which is rather lazy, but a lot of the things about future games feel kind of lazy. But that's not important right now because we're playing the second game, and the second game is the best one of the series. The reason it's the best one, though, I'm pretty sure, I said this in the beginning very briefly, is because that's just how... Oh, no, hold on, not yet. We're gonna do important plot stuff.
Lol. Aw. Aw.
I mean, Linda, while it's true that really extreme fatigue and sleep deprivation can cause people to see some weird stuff like that, I'm not sure one stressful day at school is what's causing these problems. You might need to get that looked at. I'd start with your general practitioner, but you might get referred to a neurologist for something that severe. Or, could be psychological. As someone with schizophrenia, it's not fun, but with the proper resources and understanding of the mental disorder, you can still thrive. So, Linda, talking to Lisa here about the things she discovered today about her curiosities regarding Pine Hill. Lisa actually doesn't get much time in the spotlight after the first game, and neither does Starshine. And Lisa's personality basically boils down to a rather generic punk girl, which is a shame. But Lisa also didn't have a lot going on in the first game either, aside from her trauma. So Lisa and Linda understandably agree to go to Pine Hill Mansion together. 2 heads are better than 1, or I guess 4 heads in this instance with the 2 horses, because they take the horses with them. I'm not sure how that works. You figure the horses would stay here at the stables, but I suppose not. And as we start, our mistakes are at 0. We all start life with 0 mistakes, don't we? Anyway, the goal here, collect all the blue stars by jumping over the obstacles, paying particular mind to the turn radius and speed of the horsey while making the jumps is of utmost importance. There we go. So now that we have the time, briefly, as I was trying to say several times before, I think the reason this game is so much better written than the others is just because that the writers probably felt they had to do that to sell Linda's character to the demographic they were aiming for. Like, all 4 of the characters are based on demographics of young girls they were trying to appeal to, and Linda's the smart one, so they tried to write smarter. And that's... I mean, I guess they did it. They did write smarter, but the other demographics they were aiming for also deserve to have more relatable human conflict and better written characters, not just the Linda character demographic. And finally, Meteor gets to talk. And look at, Linda, get off the screen. Yeah, look at Meteor's handsome horse face. Look at that handsome stallion. Anyway, yeah, a bomb at the Jorvik Dam, poised to kill everyone in Jorvik for real. That's the conflict in this one. Nothing fantasy about that. That's just plain terrifying. And this is unfortunately the first of many instances where Linda blows off doing something about the bomb at the dam. Like, sure, for now she doesn't know what the visions mean, but she should still tell someone, maybe give an anonymous tip, that there's been a bomb threat at the dam or something. But no, we're gonna go to Pine Hill Mansion and worry about the bomb later, of course. Quite the dramatic intro, and yes, Lisa should be around here somewhere, but there's a funny thing about shoulds, because as this text message details, Lisa went ahead and somehow got trapped in the mansion's greenhouse. For some reason, Linda doesn't get mad at her about this, but I'm mad at her about it, so maybe it balances out. What was Lisa thinking? I mean, of course, thematically it's appropriate because it's another case of someone who's supposed to be trustworthy and competent that we need to rescue because we know what we're doing and they don't because we're Linda. You know, when I think about all the characters in this game, it feels like not just as an adult, but perhaps as a child, or at least as a thinking child when you're old enough to start thinking seriously about fictional art. There's not a lot of favorite characters you could pick outside of Linda, right? Like, most of them don't have any particular depth to them aside from Linda. Also, it's maze time. I do love mazes. And, while it's true that we could easily find the exit to this maze, we're actually looking for the fallen stars first, which I have vaguely memorized the locations of. I know which direction to go to get them. There are actually 5 golden stars in this level. There's 3 in this maze, there's 1 around the mansion, and 1 in the mansion. Anyway, as I was saying, it's hard to imagine anyone having a favorite character in this series that isn't Linda. She gets the most interesting character nuances. She gets the most compelling struggles. Everybody else is a lot more cartoonish in comparison to her. That's not to say she's perfect or even three-dimensional. There's a lot of stupid decisions she makes for the sake of the story, particularly in how she deals with the bomb. And she's clearly still written to appeal to a particular demographic to a fault. Like, you can appeal to a particular demographic and be smart and well-written. A lot of shows have done that. Linda's character is a lot more transparent about it than most. Also, this mansion is cartoonishly massive, oh my god. Now that we're in the mansion proper, it's time to do mansion things, of course. Mansion things such as puzzles and lore. Very important lore when we look at these portraits. These 4 portraits in this room, which closely resemble our 4 friends, perhaps hinting at some kind of deeper prophecy regarding us. Regarding all of this, what does it all mean? I can say with absolute certainty that we will learn some of the answers sometime. To be perfectly fair to the game, like, the foreshadowing and symbolism that they're using here in these portraits is actually pretty clever when you do figure out what's going on. So I have to assume the general understanding of the plot and the outline of the role the characters would play was decided significantly ahead of time. And I do want to be fair, they are trying pretty hard to tell an actual story here. A lot of stuff tailored for young girls just isn't all that great, or at least it wasn't particularly around 2005 when this game released. Linda will tell us it looks like these swords can be moved. I disagree. What about them looks like they can be moved? Is it the sparkles? Can she see the interactivity sparkles around them telling us to press a button near them? Because if she can see those, then I agree it looks like they can be moved. But if she can't, what about them looks movable to her, I wonder? I do also really, really love the interior of this place because it doesn't get any smaller on the inside. It's so big in here. This fireplace is... Also, why is the fireplace running? The place was abandoned a while ago. Anyway, we solved the puzzle. We put the swords in the statues. And over here, we can see Geobertus's important research. The most childish-looking important research you'll ever see. There's me in the diver's outfit, and there's the eldritch monster, and there's a pretty boat, and there's the town, and we're gonna go get the big monster. So yeah, that's the big secret of Pine Hill Mansion, is that there's a goofy drawing of Geobertus working with the Dark Core Corporation to find whatever eldritch monster is hidden under the ocean near Jorvik. It's a good thing that goofy drawing just happened to be hanging out on the open page to adequately explain everything. You may think it's a little bit ridiculous that Lisa came into the greenhouse and climbed up there and got stuck. But don't worry, the game knows it's ridiculous. Linda points it out, and Lisa doesn't really have a good answer for it. So at least it makes for some fun in-universe humor, and instead of it just being a weird thing the character did for no particular reason. Let's put this ladder in our pocket. There we go.
No. Oh.
Hala bıçağını. Evet.
Linda's first reaction here, they're going to do something terrible to Mr. Herman. Yeah, I think they're going to kill Herman, if I had to guess based on that conversation, Linda. Granted, I can't be sure. Anyway, I'm sure you understood. I had to let you experience the lackluster presentation of that scene for yourself without my interruption. I don't think anyone could blame me for that. I like this level because, firstly, it's more of the actual 3D platform and gameplay you came here for. And secondly, we get to see more of the town of Jorvik this way. We get to see just how creepy, sleepy, and strange it is around here. Man, that was a terrible way to start that sentence. Fun fact, this is the only one of the Starshine Legacy games where some horrible thing is not chasing you, trying to kill you. There's none of that. None of the running from terrible things trying to kill you. Instead, we're chasing down a terrible thing trying to kill Herman, which one would argue is just as bad, but it's a minor difference that's noticeable. If you're wondering, by the way, whether Jorvik's layout is consistent, whether everything has an actual place, or whether they're just fudging all the locations to make everything more interesting, it's actually consistent. There's actually an actual map that shows you where you are at any given time, and it all checks out, but I just haven't opened the map yet. I'll try and do that in one of the future games. Hold on just one moment, Lisa. I just want to go over here for just a moment. There's something important we need to look at down here. No, I'm sure Herman's gonna be fine. There's just something we have to check out real quick. I'm not actually sure if it's possible to lose this level. Even in the event that the Dark Core van gets to the ranch before stables, I call it a ranch, excuse me, that is not what it is. Even in the event that the Dark Core van gets to the stables before you, your characters will still exclaim that you got there phew just in time. So I don't know, maybe they just forgot to program the failure state? Not that the actual platforming in the level isn't challenging in itself. I mean, after you get used to the horse controls and the momentum, all the platforming's pretty simple, but it's still, there's still that initial getting used to it, and given there was at least, I think these games were released a quarter apart throughout the year, you know, maybe you forgot how the game controls in between, and the obstacles are still, they still require some pretty particular timing for a young children's game. I'm not sure if I mentioned, I probably have, that this is the Starshine Legacy game I've played the most and the one I'm the most familiar with. I actually wanted to speedrun this one. People do speedrun Starshine Legacy, and the 100% run of this game in particular has a lot of unoptimized gameplay. Only one person did a 100% speedrun of Secret of Pine Hill Mansion, and they could have done a lot better. And I'm sure I could get the world record, I just kind of lost interest while practicing a stage that we have yet to see. I'll talk more about it when we get there. It is so unbelievably hot, by the way. Like, it is so hot. Recording longer videos like this is really hard when it's this hot. Oh my god. Alright, now that we're done complaining about that, what do you guys think about the layout of Jorvik? I think it's pretty crazy. I mean, there are things here that you would see in a sleepy town, a sleepy small countryside town. I will give you that. But they seem placed in a way that's more like an obstacle course than a fashion anyone would reasonably want them to be placed. Maybe that's just me, though. Maybe I don't understand much about agriculture, and someone could correct me. Oh, while we have some time before the end of the level, I want to complain about PC gaming real quick. So, I went to visit my family between the last Starshine Legacy video and this one, and I took this game with the intention to play it with my brother and maybe record it while I was there. But that didn't work out, because even though this game runs perfectly fine on my Windows 10 machine, if you try and play this on my brother's, it turns on. It seems to work, but the physics are broken. If you try to jump in this game on my brother's PC, your character pinballs all around the environment, shoots into the atmosphere, and then plummets straight through the ground into the pink void below. How is that happening? I don't know. I don't understand PCs, or how a game could run so completely differently on one to another. It's ridiculous to me.
Oh.
You may remember I said this was the best written Starshine Legacy game. I also said it wasn't perfect. When confronted with certain danger, what does Herman decide to do? He decides to go into the barn and lock the doors as though that will stop anyone. And worse still, it does stop them. The Dark Core goons don't decide to break in the windows or try and bust down the doors, they just give up pursuit. I guess they weren't all that determined to kill Herman after all. And you might think that Herman's excuse that he thinks this is all a crazy conspiracy theory might be good enough justification, but right here he's talking about the prophecy of the Soul Riders, explaining it to us, and he's pretty convinced that we're the chosen ones in spite of him not believing in magic previously, and it didn't take a lot of convincing for him to suddenly believe in magic either, so I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about Herman or what he believes. We also must not forget that in the first game, Starshine was kidnapped from him by Mr. Sands and the Dark Core Corporation. Maybe he forgot about that already. I don't want to say that Herman here is too dumb to live. I think it's more the case that the game's story needed him to believe multiple strange things all at once, so he does. Personally, I think it would have been a lot more believable and natural if Linda found out about the prophecy herself through study instead of being told by Herman. And also, here is Herman rather casually dismissing the threat of the bomb, you know, the bomb at the dam that will kill everyone in Jorvik. He's not going to call the cops about that, or even drop an anonymous tip that there might be a bomb at the dam. He's instead going to let these 4 girls investigate it by themselves without informing any of their parents or anyone of significant authority. What a great team dad Herman is. Herman, what even is your deal, man? What is your deal? Oh, it looks like Mr. Sands' men have left, does it? You want us to get some rest for tomorrow, do you? I think that maybe when there's a bomb threat, getting rest isn't the most important thing, but okay. Here we are at the magic circle that we arrived near the end of the... we arrived here near the end of the first game with Lisa, and we're back here to examine the site more closely and see how it might be connected to us and the prophecy. After we grab these 2 fallen stars, of course. And things are about to get a little weird, yeah. So when I was routing for my speedrun of the game, which was never completed, this was the level where the most time could be saved, but it's also the level that made me not want to speedrun the game anymore because of these barges. There was a lot of time to be saved over the current world record speedrun on these barges, but oh man, the cutscene to retry this barge section takes so long, and you have to complete the whole game again up to here if you flub the barge section. I just didn't want to deal with it. There were also some really good platforming skips near the end of the level that the current 100% world record holder did not take advantage of. Like, the world record is just ripe for shattering. I just couldn't be bothered. That's not like bragging, right? That's the opposite of bragging. I'm telling you how lazy I am. I do have a world record currently as of this recording, though, not in Starshine Legacy. I have a world record for Ugly Dolls on the Nintendo Switch. Granted, I'm the only speedrunner of Ugly Dolls on the Nintendo Switch, and my speedrun isn't particularly good. I was actually hoping that by getting the world record, submitting a pretty subpar speedrun, I would be able to convince other people to give the game a try, speedrun it for themselves. These jumps are terrifying, by the way. These are not easy jumps to make. Anyway, I was hoping other people would try Ugly Dolls once they saw that there was a speedrun board for it and a pretty easily shatterable world record. But no, I'm just still the world record holder 6 months later, and it's kind of sad. So yeah, back to the game proper. Here we are as Linda, searching for a bomb planted at an abandoned dam ourselves. I'm not sure how or why the dam is abandoned exactly. It still seems like it would be pretty important to Jorvik. But there are 4 scraps of paper spread throughout this level, and they contain the code to disarm the bomb. Now, this kind of convenience contrivance, if you really want to call it that, is not world-breaking or anything. It is super, super unlikely that a henchman of Dark Core would be dumb enough to rip up the paper containing the code into just 4 pieces and throw it to the wind, assuming no one will find it. And it's even more absurd to think that Linda would find the pieces, but it's not impossible. And that's about how strong my suspension of disbelief is. Like, it's not literally impossible for these coincidences to have occurred. So I'm good. I'm fine. Now, if somebody were to come around acting like all these coincidences were part of some grand design, or that they foresaw them, I would have quite a bit of trouble with that. It's really hard for me to play these games, but particularly this game, and this level in particular, without thinking again how badly I wish it was ported to the PlayStation 2. The visuals were pretty much what you'd expect for middle budget to low budget PlayStation 2 games. I'm playing it with the controller just fine. All the controls map really well to a controller. And, you know, if they sold it as these 4 separate games as one game, I feel like it could have had reasonable success with a certain demographic. But later, this game's world, characters, and lore were used as the foundation for a separate MMO that I think might kind of take place in the same canon. So, I mean, I guess in a way Starshine Legacy did find success eventually. A lot of this level, though, it's not particularly dangerous. Like, there are very few real hazards in this level. A lot of it is about getting fine control over your horse. Fine slow control even, not even fast control. There's a lot of climbing stairs and making tight corners and such. And I suppose that's fine. I think it's more about the atmosphere than the gameplay, personally. A lot of these obstacles can actually be completely bypassed. You don't even need Meteor for most of them. The only reason you have to bring Meteor along is because there are gates that ensure you don't leave him behind. Like, sometimes Linda will stop and say, I better go back and get Meteor, or there's occasionally areas that are just inaccessible without him. But a lot of the obstacles, there's no practical reason you can't just do them with Linda. Speaking of said obstacles, this is one of them. Linda's talking about jumping this fence with Meteor. You can actually jump the fence with your running jump as Linda. It's perfectly possible. It's not as easy, but it is possible. Linda also warns Meteor that we could get really hurt if we fall down the stairs at the end of this pathway. I'm not sure how she saw the stairs all the way down there, but I would say we would get more than really hurt if we fell down those stairs at a full gallop. I think we might both die. And you might be saying, well, maybe they're avoiding mentioning death. And I thought that too the first time I got here. But you would be mistaken, as I was, because they do mention death, and it's used to great effect, but you'll see that when it happens. I like how she says, finally, I have the 4 pieces, as though she knew there would be 4. And, like, I'm not sure how she even knows she has the final one. Like, I'm sure there are context clues, as there would be with any scrap of paper or sequence of numbers, but I'd be nervous. I'd be terrified that somehow I'm still missing a bit. Just wanted to say, out of nowhere, these games and the time I spend playing them, really precious to me. Even though I have a lot of criticism toward the Starshine Legacy games, I love them. I love that this exists. I love that there are 4 fantasy horse magical mystery games, and that they're 3D platformers, and that the world and story are so strange. I love it, and I wouldn't really change anything about Starshine Legacy. The experience I had playing through these 4 games the first time with my ex-roommate alongside my current roommate, that was special. That was to be treasured. So many beautiful observations about the game and world came from that. And while it would have probably been better for the world if Starshine Legacy were just... Oh, hold on. We're about to get something important. I personally think that scene is really damn well done. Granted, you might not know a lot about Meteor, but you know a lot about Linda, and that scene really gives you an idea of how much she's willing to sacrifice, how determined she is to do this. It's good stuff. The way that we got here might not have been the best, but that particular scene, I think, makes up for a lot of it. Unfortunately, immediately after that scene, we're right back to a bunch of junk, like how Linda says, I can't call the cops. They wouldn't get here in time. What about calling the cops before you came here so they could check the place out? Like, maybe even tell them that your vision showed you exactly where it was. You don't have to word it that way, but, you know, they could have come here and handled it. The Secret of Pine Hill Mansion really has this thing it wants to set up where Linda has to do everything by herself because she's the competent one, and even though everyone expects unreasonable things of her, she will still exceed their expectations because she's just that strong. But it's not reasonable how you get there in this game. So you might think we want to climb aboard Meteor and get riding, but you'd be wrong. There are actually 2 fallen stars, the last 2 fallen stars, out here, and we need to grab them before we start riding, or we won't get the chance. I mean, I suppose you could grab them while you're riding if you're really determined, but that just makes everything harder. As far as competitions go, each game ends in a competition of some sort, more or less. This one's my favorite. That's for sure. You know, it's just like the jumping practice earlier, but more complex. You have to have excellent control over the speed and angle of your horse. And coming out of a jump is still pretty rough if you're not used to the way the horse controls entirely. You know, mastering the momentum is probably the most important part. But I think I've gotten pretty good at it. Anyway, the game, it's pretty much over. Of course, we still have to win this competition, but that won't take long. How do I feel about it? I definitely feel like this is the best one still. It is the best written, it has the most compelling character in Linda. She doesn't really go through any development per se, it's just more about who she is as a person. But who she is as a person is more compelling than anyone else in the game. And it does a reasonably good job setting up real-world stakes, both for Linda and for the city of Jorvik. I was not expecting there to be a bomb threat when I started playing the Starshine Legacy games. And even though the way characters react to things is extremely baffling in many circumstances, at least it did more right than it did wrong.